Hold on a second, stop scrolling, seriously. Because in the next few minutes I'm going to reveal something so fundamentally powerful about your faith, it might just shatter everything you thought you knew. What if I told you that the very foundation of your relationship with God isn't what most people preach, isn't what you've perhaps always been told in churches or through religious traditions? What if there's a forgotten secret, an ancient truth, hidden in plain sight within one of the most revolutionary chapters of the Bible, that could unlock a level of peace and assurance you've only ever dreamed of achieving? This isn't about rigid church rules, or tiring religious traditions, or endless lists of things you need to do to feel good enough for God. This isn't about complex theological debates that leave you more confused than enlightened. No. This is about discovering a profound, liberating reality that shifts your entire perspective on how you stand before a holy God. We're talking about Romans chapter 4, a passage so potent, so direct. It has the power to transform your understanding of acceptance, worthiness, and divine love in a way you might never have thought possible. And trust me, by the time we're done, by the very end of this video, you'll see your faith and, more importantly, yourself in a completely new, liberating light. Are you ready to expose the shocking truth that could set you free? Let's dive. In the great deception, imagine for a moment a time before Christianity even existed, a world steeped in various religious systems, from the grand temples of Rome to the intricate rituals of ancient Israel. All of them, in one way or another, were built on a very similar premise. If you wanted to be right with God, or the gods, you had to work for it. You had to earn it. You had to follow every single rule, perform every meticulous ritual, make every sacrifice perfectly, hoping to appease the divine. It was a life of constant striving, of never truly feeling good enough, of always wondering if you'd done enough to please an all-powerful, often seemingly distant deity. This was the dominant mindset for centuries, shaping human interaction with the spiritual realm, a treadmill of endless effort. And let's be honest with ourselves, hasn't a part of us, even in our modern lives here in Ubatuba or anywhere in the world, felt that same way? That nagging, subtle feeling that if we just pray a little harder, serve a little more in our communities, read our Bible more consistently, or give more generously to a cause, then God will truly accept us. That if we just fix that one persistent flaw, conquer that one lingering sin, or achieve that one spiritual milestone, then we'll finally be worthy of His full blessing and favor. We've all been there, haven't we? This deep-seated, often subconscious belief that our good deeds, our efforts, our sheer determination somehow tip the scales in our favor with God. We perform, we strive, we measure ourselves against others, all hoping to accumulate enough merit. But what if I told you that this very idea, this pervasive belief that you must earn God's favor, is not just a misunderstanding, but a great deception? A theological dead end that, if left unexamined, can rob you of genuine joy, profound peace, and true, intimate connection with the divine. It's an exhausting treadmill that leads nowhere but frustration, anxiety, and a feeling of perpetual inadequacy. It's the spiritual equivalent of constantly trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Now let's fast forward, or rather rewind, about 2,000 years ago. A man named Paul, formerly a religious zealot known as Saul, meticulously following every single rule and tradition of his Jewish faith, has a radical, life-altering encounter with the resurrected Christ on the road to Damascus. His entire world is turned upside down, and he begins to write letters, powerful, revolutionary letters, that would shake the very foundations of religious thought and practice across the known world. One of his most explosive and transformative letters was addressed to the nascent Christian community in the bustling city of Rome, And in chapter 4 of this letter, Paul drops a bombshell that continues to echo through history, a truth that still has the power to liberate hearts today. Paul doesn't just make a new statement. He takes us back even further in time, to the very beginning of the Jewish faith, to a figure who is undeniably revered, a man named Abraham. Now, Abraham was the father of their entire nation, honored, respected, considered the absolute epitome of righteousness and faithfulness. If anyone earned God's favor through their works and obedience, it was Abraham, right? He obeyed God's terrifying call to leave his homeland. He offered his son Isaac as a sacrifice when commanded. He walked in unwavering faith against all human reason and odds. Surely his righteousness was a direct result of his incredible deeds and obedience. But Paul, with profound divine insight, asks a truly unsettling and counterintuitive question in Romans 4, verse 2. For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. Think about that for a moment. If Abraham earned his righteousness, if it was a wage for his labor, he could theoretically stand before God and declare, "Look at all I've done. I have a right to this acceptance." But Paul emphatically states, not before God. Why? Because before the perfect holiness and infinite grace of God, all human boasting is stripped away. Our works, no matter how good, how sincere, how numerous, are simply never enough to earn something that God chooses to give freely. Earning implies debt, a transaction, and God owes us nothing. Our efforts, however noble, can never bridge the infinite gap between our imperfection and His perfection. Then Paul drops the real universe-shattering bomb, quoting directly from the ancient text of Genesis. Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Romans 4:3. Did you catch that? He believed. He didn't perform an elaborate ritual. He didn't painstakingly build a temple. He didn't offer a single sacrifice at that specific point, though he would later in an act of faith. He simply believed. He trusted God's promise, and that belief, that simple act of trust, was credited to him. It was given to him. It was imputed. It was not earned through any effort of his own. It was a divine deposit into his spiritual account, a unilateral act of grace from God. Paul then goes on to brilliantly explain this mind-blowing, counterintuitive concept that challenges our deepest assumptions. He says in Romans 4, verse 4, "Now to the one who works, wages are not credited as a gift, but as an obligation." This is a straightforward principle of human economics, understandable to anyone. If you work, you get paid. That's a transaction, a direct exchange. You did the work, you earned the money. It's your right. But God's acceptance, God's declaration of your righteousness, isn't a wage. It's not something you can earn, no matter how diligently you labor, how many good deeds you accumulate, or how perfectly you try to live. And then, the verse that changes everything for so many, a verse that has brought liberation to countless souls throughout history. However, to the one who does not work but trusts God, who justifies the ungodly, their faith is credited as righteousness. Romans 4:5. Let that sink in. To the one who does not work. This isn't a license to be lazy or to be reckless or to ignore moral responsibility, as some might wrongly infer. Not at all. It's a radical paradigm-shifting perspective. It's about letting go of the exhausting, never-ending pursuit of perfection through our own efforts and embracing a fundamentally different kind of relationship with the divine. It's about understanding that God isn't looking for flawless performance. He's looking for humble, trusting hearts. He's looking for those who acknowledge their inability to earn His favor and simply receive it as an undeserved gift. This, my friends, is the absolute core of the great deception that has plagued humanity for millennia. We've been taught, either explicitly through religious dogma or implicitly through societal expectations, that we have to do something to earn God's favor, to earn His love, to earn His blessing. But Romans 4 screams the absolute opposite truth. God's righteousness, his perfect right standing, is a pure gift, freely received by simple faith, not painfully earned by our imperfect works. This isn't about what we do, it's about what God did. Paul continues to dismantle this works-based thinking with devastating clarity, even bringing in the powerful example of King David. David, a man famously described as a man after God's own heart, was also a man who made massive, scandalous, and deeply painful mistakes: adultery, murder, deception. Yet Paul quotes David in Romans 4 verses 7 and 8. "Blessed are those whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord will never count against them." David understood something profoundly important about forgiveness and being declared righteous, not based on his own actions, his adherence to the law, or his moral perfection, but solely on God's incredible grace. It's about God not counting our sins against us, not because we are suddenly perfect or have earned his leniency, but because he chooses, in his infinite mercy and justice, satisfied through Christ's sacrifice, not to. He chose to deal with sin through Christ so that he could freely forgive and declare righteous those who simply believe. So why is this such a shocking, almost offensive truth to many even today? Because it completely flips our natural human tendency to earn things on its head. It means that whether you're a lifelong churchgoer who has tirelessly served, prayed and given, or someone just beginning to explore faith, perhaps even someone who feels deeply unworthy, your standing with God isn't dependent on your performance, your past mistakes, or even your future potential. It's completely and utterly dependent on his radical, unmerited favor, received by simple, humble trust in him. Think about the profound implications of this for your daily life, for your inner world. If your righteousness, your right standing with God, depended on your performance, on your ability to measure up, you would live in a perpetual state of anxiety. Every small mistake, every bad day, every lapse in judgment, every moment of weakness would throw you into a spiral of self-doubt, guilt, and fear. You'd constantly be wondering if you've done enough, if you're truly good enough, if you've somehow messed up your chances with God forever. That's not a life of freedom. It's a life of striving, of earning, of perpetual spiritual debt, and it's utterly exhausting to the soul. But if your righteousness is a gift, completely received by faith in what God has already perfectly accomplished for you through his Son, Jesus Christ, then your peace is no longer a fragile, fleeting emotion dependent on your fluctuating performance. It's now rooted in and dependent on God's unchanging character, his unfailing love, and his perfect, complete, finished work on your behalf. Think about the profound implications. You make a mistake. Your righteousness given by God isn't diminished. It remains whole. You struggle with doubt or feel a momentary lack of faith. Your acceptance isn't withdrawn. Your status with God remains secure. You feel weak, tired, or inadequate. God's grace isn't less powerful or less available to you. In fact, it's in our weakness that his strength is perfected. This fundamental truth changes everything about how you experience your faith and how you see yourself. It means your relationship with God isn't a fragile, conditional agreement based on your merit, easily broken by your imperfections. It's a rock-solid, unconditional embrace. And from that incredible place of unshakable peace, fueled by the liberating knowledge that you are already completely accepted, completely loved, and declared righteous in his sight, you are truly free to live, to love, to serve, not out of obligation or fear of punishment, but out of profound gratitude, boundless joy, and an overflowing heart that responds to his goodness. This isn't just a theological concept. It's a profound, personal invitation to rest, to finally lay down the crushing burden of trying to earn something that's already been freely and unconditionally given to you. It's an invitation to step into a life where your worth isn't measured by your deeds, your achievements, or your failures, but by God's immeasurable, unwavering, and extravagant love for you, a love that justifies the ungodly. And that, my friends, is the most liberating, peace-inducing truth you could ever embrace in your spiritual journey. Romans chapter 4 doesn't just talk about faith. It invites you to experience a depth of grace and divine acceptance that will utterly transform your entire life from the inside out, beginning today. If this message resonated with you, if it sparked something deep in your heart, I genuinely encourage you to do two things. First, open your Bible and read Romans chapter 4 for yourself. Meditate on its powerful truths. Let its radical message wash over you. See how Paul meticulously lays out this argument. Second, I want to hear from you. This truth about being justified by faith, not works, is revolutionary. What was the most surprising takeaway for you from this video? Has this idea of faith, not works, ever been a struggle for you? Share your experience. What's one practical way understanding Romans 4 might change how you live your daily life, whether it's in Ubatuba or anywhere else in the world? Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. I'll be reading them and interacting with as many of you as I can. Let's create a community of peace seekers and truth discoverers right here. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more truth bombs like this one that can transform your life. Until next time, find your peace and live freely in His incredible, unfathomable grace.